Anand, welcome to this very, very interesting session that we're going to do today. And I'm really, really happy to host you. Can you just tell us a little something about yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much, Dhananjay. Hi, everyone. My name is Anant Gupta. I recently took the GMAT. I'm a very strange mix of a lawyer, an entrepreneur, a musician, and a very, very proud cat dad. So that's all about me. Now over to you.
Yeah, this comes from a man who now. Yeah, I think we're online now. So, guys, first things first. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Just let me know in the comments below so that we kind of can get kickstart the session. It's been a slightly hitchy start, but let us know if you can hear and clearly see. I'll wait for the comments to pour in. In the meantime, Anant, we can take you backstage. And I have a very interesting joke to crack with all of y'all. So here's the joke. If Arnold Schwarzenegger were to give the GMAT, how much do you think he would score on the verbal section? So you can post your comments on the comments section. I would love to hear some funny, witty answers so that we can kind of kickstart the session and see how you're thinking. And then I'll obviously go ahead and give you the punchline as well. Okay, let's wait for the comments to come in. Waiting for something like a V36, giving you a hint. So, frankly, the answer is a V44 because that's the size of his biceps. So, Rohit, you got it right. Insane. You got the joke. I'm glad someone's getting the joke. Just going to take you into the goals of the session now, essentially, now that I've cracked that really nice joke. Essentially, what you're going to be taking away from the session is how do you score a 750 in 75 days? And how do you kind of avoid scoring that, 600 level or 650 level score when you first take the GMAT, right? So I want you to take away very, very big and certain learnings from this session that you can apply to what you're doing right now. So it's not just going to be a session around, what can happen and what should happen, but we'll give you very, very clear takeaways on what you can get done. We also have a very interesting section where Anant and me will actually be discussing an SCNCR question together. And we'll kind of solve it with you guys to show you how strategy or like studying strategically can really, really matter when it comes to the GMAT and save you a ton of time, right? So just taking you through the session now, have you given a mock or the GMAT and scored badly on it? Have you been studying for months on end and just not improved? Or a lot of students actually take a lot of time on SACR questions. So essentially, the at the end of the day, getting a 750 is super, super hard. And out of the 200,000 students that actually take it, 2% eventually end up scoring a 750 on the GMAT. And we have a very special person with us who is ended up scoring a 750 on the GMAT, who's going to take you through his journey. And you have to take away these learnings from what he's telling you because he's coming from a very, very strong background and he's done a lot of things that you would have already done and probably gone wrong. So listen to him, listen to us, and then just enjoy the session. That's the idea of doing this, right? So let's bring Anand back to kind of just get into conversation with him, and talk about his journey. So let's go into conversation mode just with Anand, where Anand, can you just take me through your GMAT journey? Let's start off with the fact that you're a non-native who's actually scored a V44, which is a very big deal. Take me through how you got to that.
So first of all, even though I'm a non-native English speaker, even amongst the non-natives, I always was very underconfident about my verbal. I knew that somehow Quant was manageable, but I wasn't someone who has read a lot of books or who's done exceedingly well in verbal subjects in school or in even in college. I've been moderate or basically average in terms of verbal abilities. So when I started preparing for GMAT, I knew that my pressure point was going to be verbal. I'm sure we're going to talk a bit about my first GMAT mock attempt, but in brief, if I were to summarize all of that, basically my journey from V31 to V44, the only thing which helped me out was hard work towards finding meaning of every word which I'm reading out, because that's something which I essentially ignored in my first try. In my first attempt, I had a mechanical approach towards verbal. I used to pick out on certain key indicators in SC or in CR to see if I could get to the right answer. Even for RC, I would be like, I would first read the question sometimes and then try to find the answer from the passage, which is a
So it is
very
essentially very intuitive, right? So for an SCCR and RC question, you kind of went about reading the question and what felt right to you. You kind of went ahead and marked that. And I think
exactly
that's exactly what you learned. That's what a lot of students do, right? They kind of look at a SC question and think, you know what, this is right, but it actually may convey the intended meaning of the author. Right. I
correct.
think that is very, and we will discuss that later in the session. But let's just get into how you studied the first time for the GMAT. Let's just
All right.
talk about on an elemental basis, step by step, how you managed to do that.
All right. So I can tell one thing very, very honestly. I've done almost everything which any prudent, rational GMAT taker would do. I'll tell you how I started out. First of all, my sister got a 760 in just a month's preparation when she in I think in around 2012 or 2013. So I personally thought I could do it without much hard work. I thought I'm from that family, I'm from that background. My mind would probably, not take that much time to prepare. Unfortunately, that was not true. I'll get to that later. But to answer your question, how I started out, I just focused on the OG first. The first time I started studying, I gave a mock. I gave a mock without studying anything, neither the quant sections or the verbal sections. Without studying anything, I just gave a mock.
And this
Then
is the official mock, essentially, right? So this is the
correct,
official mock one on MBA.com. And I think you did the right thing there as well, that you gave the mock without any prior study. So you knew exactly on an ability level what you were weak at before you start studying. So if you start studying and then give the diagnostic,
mm,
that kind of kills the
yeah,
idea of giving the diagnostic.
that actually blurs the fact, that hides what your weaknesses essentially are. So from the mock test, I found out that I thought I was good in SC because I am very critical of other people's sentences, maybe, or the way they talk or how they speak or something like that. But when I found out that I almost did 10 mistakes out of the 12 questions, out of the 12, 10 were wrong. Then I found out, and I was actually happy to realize what my mistakes actually are, because it's one thing to improve, but it's another thing to actually find out what to improve on. That's very important, right? So I found out I was weak at SC, and I was pathetic in a lot of quant subjects which I had forgotten because of lack of practice. So this was how I started out. Then I slowly started preparing just on those points. I started first with sentence correction. I started out from the OG, and I think everybody is suggested, to try out the OG when they start out. There's a huge problem in the OG, and I've gone through the OG I think twice or thrice, so I can vouch for this. For anyone who's not very very confident about SC concepts, the OG will not give you much. It only lists down the 13, 14 rules, and within those rules, it assumes that you will know a lot of internal concepts which they will they will use while explaining a particular concept, right? And
Yeah, so
that's
the answer explanations that they have out there are slightly convoluted in the sense that an average non-native speaker is not expected to know what is an antecedent to a pronoun. I mean,
absolutely,
I'm sorry, but I
absolutely,
don't know.
absolutely,
That's extremely normal. And then you went about doing exactly what people told you to do. Your sister would have told you, go through. This is what
yeah,
your sister would have said. This is what I did. Why don't you do the same thing? That worked
yeah,
for me. It'll work for you. So
exactly.
yeah, you did the OG in SC and it didn't work for you. What about the rest?
So I gave the OG about a month and a half. I finished all the questions of verbal and quant, but I started out with my weaknesses and then went to my strengths so that I could have more time on my weaknesses. So after studying for a month and a half, somehow I got a 720 in my second GMAT official test. But honestly, even if you see my GMAT error log, my GMAT test log, you will see that it wasn't timed properly. Because what happened was in the first attempt, I found out something which took me aback, which was that GMAT is 50% about the concepts and 50% about the timing, right? And I think I only attempted 26 out of the 36 questions in the first try. So in the second try, at a lot of places and questions, I paused the timer and then gave the answer. So essentially, that was definitely an inflated score, and I did not depend on it too much. Uh,
So you slightly cheated through the test. Slightly,
Absolutely.
not too much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I
Got it.
was honest to myself that this is not your perfect representation of
Yeah.
a score. That's very important. Throughout your GMAT journey, everybody needs to be true with with themselves, because if you're cheating yourself, then nobody can help you. Right?
And that's the hardest part, right? Like all of us feel that, I've done well or done badly on SC. But that doesn't mean my SC skills are bad. Like this is how we feel that, I speak great English. I talk all the time. I use the right grammar. How can SC be bad, right? So,
Absolutely.
I mean, essentially what you did was you studied for months on end with books, which is basically the OG. You spend a lot of hours and effort on doing that. Do you think the return on investment per hour, so now that you're an entrepreneur, if you will have to put that metric against OG, would you be able to do that?
Honestly, the OG is a bit. So I purchased the verbal review, the quant review, and I started those. I had planned it like this, that when I would give my second attempt of my second mock, then I will start with my verbal review and my quant review. The entire OG set, the
Okay, I think we've lost Anand for a while. So well, let's wait for Anand to kind of get back. Let me answer, Naman, your question, right? How is and what was his first mock score? Anand's first mock score, Anand, your first mock score was a 570, right, on your official mock
590.
one without the prep, 590, right?
590.
So essentially, you improved from a 590 to a 750, and again, that was without prep to actually getting everything done the right way. So I mean, frankly, a 160-point improvement is phenomenal. And we'll get into that later, but yeah. Return on investment. We were
Yeah.
there, so let's take it off.
By the way, I'm so sorry I dropped out. There was a slight misconnection. Uh,
Absolutely fine.
Yeah, so basically, if you honestly ask me about the return on investment, I've spent a lot on a lot of resources. Okay, number one was the GMAT books, the official books, which I think if a prudent student has to invest, instead of the books, go for the online version. That's a better investment. I'll tell you why. Because there's essentially no theory in the GMAT OG books, and secondly, the online test center which they have is actually very, you can modify and customize a lot of quizzes. So in effect, if I were to advise anyone to buy anything out of the official guide, this thing lot, I would just recommend them to go for the online version, which I think is available separately. That's why I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
uh,
So Wiley has that where they kind of give you the choice of getting those questions online and kind of creating those quizzes online. So tip from Anand, guys, get it and make sure that you kind of do it online, because it gives you a real feel of the exam at the end of the day.
Right.
Right? Let's
Because
just go back and PD
yeah,
for a bit, and then we get back to you, Anant. So we'll
yeah,
just be in conversation with you as well, but let's go back to the PPT. Just want to kind of share something, essentially what kind of people do on the test, right? So what 95% students do, and like you said very rightly, OT questions, and then towards the end, mocks, mocks, mocks. That's essentially the strategy that everybody uses. So you spent all the time, 500 hours of effort, 3,000 questions, and then the rate of success is not very high. So it's a mere 10%. Right?
yeah.
And essentially, where I want to be is I want to spend lesser time, do lesser questions, and have 8 times the kind of success, right? And that kind of happened with you,
Mm.
which is why we're kind of having this conversation at the end of the day, right? So it's all about giving yourself the chance of success. Now here's a very interesting slide. So GMAT is easy syndrome. I only use the OT to study. You must have heard friends, your sister, someone say that. I just took 20 marks before the test, and I'm sorted completely. And I only studied for 10 days, and I still got a 720. Guys, this does not happen. Take it from Anand, take it from me. This absolutely does not happen. You got to carve out your own path. So, how do you learn to avoid a 650? You chart out your own path. And again, this was Anand's official mock score. He scored a 590 on his official mock. He kind of studied from all across. He did all the right things, basically all the mistakes that you can possibly make. And this is his this is his basically log where he's mentioned every single piece of the mocks that he's taken. So let's go back into conversation and we'll talk about this piece and the rest as well, right? So Anand, when I see this mock log, there's a very interesting thing here. There's a column that says quant anxiety. It says verbal anxiety. It says quant skip slash guesses, verbal skip slash guesses. Now, this essentially tells me that this guy is super smart. He's done everything right. He's basically done his research. He's ticked all the boxes, basically. Why is this person going on and then scoring a 6-7, right? So again, we're going jumping into that. What happened on the exam? Take me through that.
Okay, so are you asking me what happened on for the first attempt?
GMAT. Yeah, the
Okay.
first the GMAT attempt.
And yeah, I just want to mention one small thing, taking one point from what you were saying before. When you as a mentor, when you say to students that taking a lot of mocks is not the way to go about it, I can tell you from a student's perspective why they think like that and how and why I thought like that. You think that it's like a normal race where when you practice and practice, when you get more comfortable with the field, then one day suddenly you see a rise, right? Unfortunately, the GMAT is a very different race. I can't categorize it in any specific category of a race, but what happens here is you're supposed to spend the optimum amount of time to get the maximum number of marks. You cannot study for years and years, and then what my perspective was, if I give a mock and I get 650, maybe in the second mock I'll get a 670, then 690. There will be one day when I'll get a stable series of 740, 50 and 60. So that's what we think, and that's what I essentially also follow. And when I had about 740 to 760 scores in my official as well as experts global mocks towards the end of my preparation for the first attempt, I felt moderately confident to book my date. So I chose the date for, I think, which was available in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and I booked it. And during that time, I also gave 1 or 2 mocks, and I was scoring fine. I was scoring okayish, like 740, 50. That was my area, right? Now, what happened was, the day when the exam actually happened, I went to the test center. I was super confident. And by the way, DJ, you just mentioned that, I've planned everything out. I had micro planned every second of the GMAT exam. I even planned out what type of carbs, proteins, fats I should be taking in between what breaks. What should be how much should I sleep? and somewhere I read that it's not important, like the sleep which is 1 day before the exam is not so much as important as the sleep which is 2 days before. So a lot of information was already inside my head, and with my Gatorade, with my Snickers and whatnot, I went to the exam center, and I sat and I was trying to. I started the verbal first, which was my comfort area. Even if you go through my test log, you will see that in the beginning I tried to attempt a few mocks with quant first and then verbal second.
I
So
remember, yeah.
I slowly found out that I think I would do better if I do verbal first. My reason was that my mind gets tired after doing the quant section, and I need a fresh mind, a fresh perspective for verbal to understand the meaning. That's why I started out with verbal. Now, when I started out with the verbal on the D day, a lot of things went wrong. Right, starting from like the biggest thing which went wrong was I could not make sense of any two words. I was reading everything, I was reading all the sentences, but nothing was, I wasn't absorbing anything, right? And the reason why that probably happened was the in the initial few questions, I think I did some mistakes and I was conscious about it. And I basically wasn't sure if those questions were right or wrong. I had that confusion, right? So that got to my nerves, and slowly I started messing everything up. But I said to myself that, remember, there have been mocks in the past where I've not done so well in verbal, but still my score in verbal was somewhere around V36. So if I manage a V36 and a Q49, I still will be in a good position, which is 700 plus, right? Which was
Yeah,
my
700, 710. Yeah.
correct. So which was a score which I probably would have said yes to in my first attempt, right? Now, after the verbal section happened, I went back. I had some Snickers, I had Gatorade, I had coffee and whatnot. So basically, I did all of that, and then the level of planning which I had was in the last two mocks. I gave the mocks with a mask on, because I found out that the masks will be required. So I'm just trying
Yeah.
to connect with those students who try to give undue advantage to all of these things, versus the time which you should be given to the actual concepts and practice, right?
I have a quick question here. I have a quick question here. Does coffee and Gatorade go well? I have never ever heard of that combination. Okay, I think Anant has left us again. He will join back us in a bit. Coffee and Gatorade, guys, do not go well. Please do not take that before you kind of go into your next quant piece. Anant is back again. That's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. I
Yeah,
was just telling them
coffee
that
and Gatorade
yeah, they
well
don't work.
together. Coffee I had in
Yeah.
the first break, and Gatorade was in the second break, because I would be dehydrated from coffee after I took coffee in the first break. That was
So first you
reason.
dehydrated yourself and then you dehydrated yourself. That's
Yeah.
smart. But yeah, I can completely understand that. And let's talk about a few things that you've said. Firstly, if I have to talk about the GMAT as anything, I'll compare it to a marathon. Yeah. So in a marathon, you prep for months and months on end, and then in the marathon itself, there's different phases to a marathon. So if you ever run a marathon, you kind of make sure that you keep yourself at the front of the pack. And then in the end is when you put your foot on the pedal and go all out, right?
Yeah.
And that's precisely like the GMAT. You really need to kind of be consistent. You have to kind of go through the motions and then put your foot to the pedal at the end. I think
Yeah.
that's very, very important with the GMAT, and that's something that you will probably connect to as well. And another thing that you will connect to is that I've seen so many students, Anant, who came to me, and these are people who are scoring really well on marks. They said that, what happened? I kind of did an SC question or a CR. I thought I was good at, and I got it wrong. I knew I got it wrong in the back of my mind. And then they mess up the first few medium level questions, and then it's just recovering from that is so difficult on the verbal sector. That hot cognition thing that you mentioned makes so much sense to me now. That a lot of students kind of fall for that
Yeah.
trap, right? And that's something that you kind of fell for as well. But having said that, I think you still did a fantastic job. planning the GMAT, giving it, and by no means a 670 a small score. Let's talk about how you landed up at EG. Now, a lot of times, I've heard a lot of students. I remember you only mentioned to me that I have read so many things about eGMAT. Take me through that entire, and please,
Yeah.
absolutely be honest. I have not paid you for this session, so go ahead and just be candid about your feedback about the reviews and the entire process of it. Now that
So
you review yourself.
yeah, so as I said, I did everything prudently, and one of the steps of doing this was to find out which are the companies, which are the resource training centers where where you could probably see yourself studying. So there was one name which was probably taken by everyone, which was Manhattan. Everybody said that the books are amazing, so I went ahead and bought the books. Right. Of course, there were better reviews about the GMAT, this thing, one-on-one tutoring, but I did not have the resources to go for
The
that.
books are pricey, Last I remember, they're worth what? The 10K for that 7 packs.
11K,
Because
11K, but yeah, I bought it. I bought a second-hand version
okay,
of it.
and
So I
I
paid,
looked at that on Amazon, and when I was about to study, I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm not paying 11,000 for
yeah,
books. So is there more in it?
yeah.
So I can understand where that is coming from.
So luckily, I got a second-hand version for 4,000, which was a decent. I thought it's a decent investment. Let's go for it.
Hmm.
Very honestly, I read the entire set because I want my money back from whatever I've paid for. I read everything. Their sentence correction, which was told to me by some people that it's very good. I honestly did not understand a lot of things out of it. Critical reasoning was still fine. There's one book called Aristotle CR Bible,
Yeah,
which
that's
which
Power Score. That's Power
Power
Score
Score,
CR, and
Power Score
Aristotle is
CR
the
Bible.
essay.
Yeah. So Power Score CR Bible, which is also a good resource, but even then my mind wasn't fully satisfied. During that entire research process, I also found out there's a company called eGMAT. I read that there are so many reviews about the eGMAT success stories and all of that, that somehow I was a bit, I had this in mind. It's their marketing gimmick. And in fact, I read somewhere on Quora that some person had answered saying that no, they asked their students to take reviews for blah blah. Yeah, so whatever. So basically, I at that point of time I backed out from going ahead for the eGMAT, and this was back when I scored a 720 in my second mock test. Around that time, I was looking for resources. That's why I went for the Manhattan books.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
so basically, I read everywhere that okay, there are a lot of success stories, but there's something fishy about a lot of reviews being there. And I put a pause on my research on eGMAT, and I thought maybe it's not for me, and I will probably do well if I just focus on Manhattan, Veritas mocks, experts global mocks, and various other free mocks which are available online. And I did everything. I practically did everything which is free, right? And what happened was, when I gave my first attempt, I started studying again, and I booked another date which I think was in 15-20 days from my first attempt. And I was on GMAT Club when I was reading about ing modifiers, because that was a pressure point for me. I never understood where the hell and why the hell do we use ing modifiers, comma, ed modifiers, and all of that, right? So I was reading an explanation by Payal or Shraddha, I can't remember exactly, but that explanation was beautiful, right? And that really explained when and what are the types of cases when you use those modifiers. And there I also saw that they have written that you could take a free trial. So I just took it, right? And I don't know what was going in my mind, but I just took it. And there was a pop-up saying that if you want to discuss your GMAT study plan, then you can book a one-on-one session. And I thought, okay, even though I'm not paying for it, even though it's free, it actually might be very useful for me, because my study plan, which I thought was fine, a very, very detailed study plan, everything planned to the T. I just need to discuss with someone if that is fine for my second attempt or not. And that is how I started speaking to Dhruv, who's a representative of eGMAT, and and I discussed the entire ESR with him, my report with him, and he gave me some insights on where I was lacking, why I was lacking, because I did not know how to exactly read the ESR. Although I paid for it, but I did not know what to take from it, how to analyze it.
Yeah.
So he essentially
Let me just give context to everybody here as well, right? So now we have lots of mentors here at eGMAT who kind of work with students like you. Trust me, you're a student who's done their research, did everything right, came to us with all the arsenal that, I've done this, I want to know what's wrong. And building a study plan is a very intricate business. It's not, I'm going to give you this to do on this day, this to do on that day. And it's a very, very intricate business. You need to understand who the student is, who you are, Anand, right? And I think Dhruv kind of really understood that, and which is why we have a lot of these calls being booked really, really fast with us, and they kind of go out of production as well very, very fast. So just before that, before we kind of get into that piece where you spoke to Dhruv, we talk about that. So I just want to kind of show a few numbers and we're going to talk about those fishy numbers that you mentioned in the number of reviews that you kind of show. So now I can just take us back to the PPT mode, and essentially now these are the numbers, right? So I can totally understand, Anand, when you say that eGMAT has 2024 reviews, and all the other test prep companies, even if you total it up, you still fall short by a lot. So there must be something fishy, right? But let's think about this now. Let's talk about the GC verification process. You have given reviews as well, and this statistic basically shows that in 2015, in 2014, 2015, the process of verification was not there. You couldn't verify your review, right? The GC kind of brought that in 2015, 2016 because it's important to have genuine students verifying their own reviews. And the reviews for us didn't really drop, just dropped by a bit. And you can see Veritas and Magoosh kind of just going out of proportion and dropping. So clearly the drop is because of something, right? And then that we didn't see that. So now I was just thinking to myself the other day, and I was talking to a student. I was talking to a friend of mine, by the way. So I told Mukul that, Mukul, can you just drop us a review? He scored a 710, a Q51, we 36. So essentially, Mukul said there that I would want to drop a review when I score a 750, right? I know that you already brought a lot to the table for me, but I will only want to give that review when it makes a difference to me. So everyone here needs to understand that no one gives a review to do a favor. They give it because it's organic. It's love and care that we kind of share with our students, and they kind of give that back to us. And that's seen through like 600 odd debriefs and all the video interviews that you see with me, with Rajat, with Payal. They're so organic. I mean, you can see the care and concern because we've interacted with all of them, right? So it can't be just made up stuff. So now we'll talk about the missing ingredient. Then essentially, this is where Dhruv came in. This is where you guys can book a call with a mentor and say, help me fix my prep right now. Help me fix my study plan. I'm working for, so Pratima says, I'm a working professional. How many hours do I have to spend? Ask your mentor, book a call, right? Essentially, let's, just go and do that so that we can help you and give you the same kind of care we give Anant. So we'll just go back into discussion with you, Anant, now on that conversation with Dhruv, right? That conversation with Dhruv, how did that go? How did he structure it? How was that helpful to you?
So the first 20-25 minutes, he just listened to me because I had a lot of things to say. I had this entire history which I wanted to explain him, and I also wanted to tell him that I'm not someone who's not done I've done a little amount of research and gave the GMAT just like that, and I failed to get my target score. So I just wanted to explain that I wasn't that type of a person, and I am expecting him to actually help me out, because at that point of time I was helpless. Why was I helpless? Because I had exhausted all GMAT, all the 6 official GMAT tests. I had exhausted a lot of experts global mock test series which I had purchased. I had done the OG twice, or probably more than that. And basically I was helpless. I wanted to ask someone as to, what do you think should be the plan now? So the first thing, I remember what he told me was that you cannot give another attempt in the next 15 days, because he saw that he can very clearly see that there are concept gaps in SC. And honestly, that hurt my pride a little, because around that time I was like, no, I know all of the concepts. It's just that that day was very bad and everything went bad on that day. That is why, I couldn't probably achieve my target score. So this was the first thing which he told me, that you cannot give the attempt in the next 15 days. You need more days. So I told him, and I discussed with him when I could, what was my last day, which I could, which I could afford for my rescheduling in terms of money as well as my work commitments. Right. So I told him that, and he said, okay, you have, your weak areas are so and so. He told me your SC is weak, and in your quant you just need to keep practicing, because I was already at a Q49. So he said that a jump from 31 to 40, which was my target score in verbal, is only going to be possible if I spend at least a month on basically understanding concepts. By that time he did not actually start endorsing eGMAT, but then I told him a bit about my experience of eGMAT also. Around that time also I told him that, I find it fishy that there are just so many reviews. I can't really believe, because, Dhananjay, students actually do not know what the verification process of GMAT Club is. That is why I couldn't believe
that. So take us through that.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, when I saw all of those reviews, I thought anyone could post these, right? And that is what goes on in any student's mind. And that is why they think that a company with so many reviews, there's something is going to be wrong. What they don't understand, which I understood after I gave the GMAT, was your GMAT score can only be verified if you have actually given the GMAT and you actually have a report card or the score card which you get from the GMAT, right? So that is why I was probably, I was a little hesitant. But then Dhruv pointed out my weaknesses. He told me that I need some time. And then he pitched the course. He told me how is it different from others. And he also cleared out a small concern which I had. The concern was, during my research, I found out that eGMAT does not give out phone numbers of their mentors, right? So I was like, if I have a doubt, how am I going to reach out to the mentor? And honestly, I had that. I knew the reason why eGMAT doesn't give. That the assumption which I had was because there would be a lot of irrelevant calls as well. And if you just
course. It's a self-paced course essentially. So
correct,
you don't have that kind of thing for that.
Correct. So I just had this in mind, and I asked him, and he told me, and he assured me that all your doubts, all your queries will be handled in 2 ways. Which, by the way, Dhananjay, is still a doubt in a lot of students' mind, because I just clarified this with a student who was confused about buying the eGMAT course, and he was asking me these questions. So just let me take a minute out and explain to everyone how eGMAT answers your questions. Number one, if you have a subject-related question, you can simply see that there is a column on the right which says if you have any queries, you can post your query there, and within a day or two, you will get the reply. Also, by the way, a very important point here, it's not like if you post your query, you will have to keep tracking it. That does not happen. You will get an email when a reply has been posted, right? And there might be a possibility that the question which is in your mind may actually be answered in one of the previous Q&A sessions, which you can see. So you can simply Control F some keywords and find out what your questions. So this is in respect of any SCCR, RC, or Quant related question which you specifically face on the eGMAT portal. Now, the second thing which people don't understand the importance of is mentoring. What is mentoring? Basically, a lot of times you will need help with strategy. I remember that one time I told DJ that I've been practicing CR in and out. I've been following every bit of his advice, but I'm pathetic with timing and accuracy. So these kind of questions, for these type of questions, you have to send an email to eGMAT and they reply back promptly. And honestly, this is one point which I was hesitant about when I did not know how this process exactly happens. So this is just a, just from a student's perspective as to what we feel about eGMAT when we don't know the nitty gritties of it, and that's how Dhruv actually helped me out. And that's when I made, around that time I was like, I have to trust someone. I can't just trust myself, because I know what I've done when I've trusted myself. And I need a mentor. I need a structured way of learning. I can't just keep learning concepts of GMAT Club, which by the way, is a great resource, but you cannot learn the entire length of concepts from GMAT Club itself. So
you need that kind of objective feedback, right? I mean, essentially, that's all
yeah.
what we want at the end of the day, right? I'll just go back to the PPT now. And now that you mentioned all of this, I want to talk a little bit about the team at eGMAT. So then you don't know this, but and a lot of people don't know this. There's 40 plus people who work full time on making sure that you get successful. Now you have, a SM team on an SCCR, RC, Quant, all topics working around the clock just to make sure we answer every one of your queries. We make sure that we assist you with everything, like you mentioned, right? There's a lot of background work happening there. Then you have Rajat, Pal, and Shraddha, who is so well known over GMAT Club that you take these names and they'll be like, oh my God, I need their help, right? So I think when someone comes to eGMAT, they don't realize the kind of background and support work that is happening. So if you want to go out there and give your GMAT and be successful, you want a powerful team to back you. You have Rajat, you have Payal, you have Shraddha, you have me and the entire strategy team backing you and helping you every step along the way, whether it's through an email or through anything, right? We just answer every single thing. So I wanted to talk about the passion and why do I mentor students? There's a reason for it, right? I understand every little thing that goes on in a student's mind, your mind, anybody's mind, because I've gone through the process. I have also, been through those trials and tribulations of a GMAT student. So those little points that, I'm stuck here, I'm stuck there, I've been through that. So I bring that special thing to the table, and I want to kind of bring about change in people's lives as well. I know the kind of change a good GMAT score can make for your entire life. So it's a it's a noble thing for me as well, which is why I kind of want to do it. Now through mentoring, like you said, the three most important things is we kind of give you a study plan. We kind of give you data to tell you that these are the things that you kind of need to work on, and the course in itself kind of gives you that. And we tell you this is what you need to work on, and that for me is that objective feedback that kind of Dhruv gave you, I gave you, that kind of worked out really well for you, right? And we kind of helped you work on SC, even though it was something that you thought you were good at. So I think the biggest thing for us is that you kind of changed your mindset as well. So you changed your mindset. We came into the picture. We changed the way you're thinking and the learning. And now this is where we kind of go into the very interesting part. So I promised you guys that we'll do an SCNCR question together. So me and Anant are going to take you through the entire process. We've been talking about this for 40 minutes now. Let's take you through the process, show you how it actually works in day-to-day life, right? So it's a small little glimpse of what you can learn at eGMAT through the meaning-based approach. So essentially, I'm going to kind of pause here and basically show you the slide. Anant, you just read out this question out loud, and then we're going to take up these question by question, and we kind of want to go through this with the audience. So when you read this statement, how do you go about problem solving it, or threading out the problems or weeding out the problems here? What is the first thing that you do now that you know the meaning-based approach?
Got it. So I will first apply the meaning-based approach. Let's take this sentence part by part. You don't need to read the entire sentence in one go. Let's understand the meaning first. Pfizer has said that they will launch another vaccine in the next few months to increase effectiveness. All right. So from what I can understand is there's a company called Pfizer or whatever, an organization called Pfizer. They have said that they want to launch a vaccine in the next few months to increase effectiveness. Now, suddenly what strikes out to me is the last part of the sentence, which is to increase effectiveness. Now, there is where you need to apply your intuition and the meaning based approach. You need to ask yourself, is the meaning clear? And the answer needs to be yes, right? So the meaning is definitely not clear because you are reading to increase effectiveness, but you don't know if it's to increase the effectiveness of the vaccine or
So let's get the audience also involved here a little bit, guys.
okay.
So tell us, is the meaning clear to you? Is the meaning not clear to you? Because it's definitely, I know the answer and Anand knows the answer because we've kind of, we've just seen this question. We know the meaning-based approach, but I kind of want to take you through it. I want to kind of share the ideology we have here at eGMAT in terms of SC. So have a look at these questions and see if you think you're comfortable with this. Does it convey the intended meaning? So the intended meaning here is Pfizer is a company, it's launching a vaccine. Timeline is what? It's in the next few months. And let's notice the word another here. Another here basically means they've launched a vaccine before, right? So don't forget these little elements in a statement to kind of convey the intended meaning. And finally says to increase effectiveness. Now, what effectiveness? Who knows? It's absolutely incomplete. I don't know, is it the effectiveness of the vaccine? Is it the effectiveness of the coronavirus? Or is it the effectiveness of Pfizer as the company? We don't know that, right? So there is that incomplete meaning. And then from this intended kind of meaning approach, we go to the next question. So, Anand, do you think we can use affect over here instead of effect? And why not?
Just a second. No, we can't, of course. Yeah, we
so
cannot.
Why can't we use affect?
Because there's a very different meaning and relevance of the word affect. Affect is used when you are when an act affects some other thing, when something affects another thing, right?
So
And
it's a
effect,
result of something else, basically.
result, yeah, correct,
Correct.
correct.
So again, it's coming back to the meaning-based approach at the end of it. There's no grammatical rule. We don't remember anything here. Essentially, it's just a meaning-based approach. And again, one very important thing is what you infer from this, right? What does the author want to kind of convey about the vaccine? Was the previous vaccine effective? The answer is no, because they're clearly saying it's going to increase
effectiveness.
So this can be so, the meaning-based approach can be so helpful for CR. I mean, that is so beautiful, right? And that's kind of what me and Anand wanted to share with you. Now Anand, let's do that exercise we did for CR as well, right? So I think this cut down your time by about 35 to 40 seconds. So guys, this is a very big question again, and I kind of want you to go through it. It's got a lot of details, right? So it's got y-tex, it's got ones, it's got percentages, it's got numbers. So essentially, what were you doing before, Anand, when you read a question like this? What were your first steps, and how did you change?
So, and I think I need everyone to listen and understand if you do the same thing, because this actually might be something which can change your GMAT CR strategy. The first time when I gave the GMAT, the way in which I used to attempt the CR question was to make extensive note after reading a part of the sentence or one full sentence, right? So I would for example, I would read the first sentence, visualize in my mind, but also write it down in my own words. And this is a strategy which I actually took from Manhattan. I think in Manhattan it was given that taking down notes is good, and I was positive that this might help out. Why? Because if I write it down, I thought I would actually absorb more of it, right? Now, how I changed this, so the CR strategy was I stopped making extensive note, and that's actually essentially where DJ helped me. How did that help? You will reduce your time of actually of any CR question, because you don't need to spend so much time to understand what symbol you have to give for cash, or what symbol you have to give for change or increase or something like that. A lot of time and energy goes on just in making good notes, right? To make neat notes, to make notes which you can understand. However, the purpose of note making is just to visualize better, right? It's not so that the teacher will check your notes and then give you marks based on that. It's not that you will ever return back to the notes. Even if you look back at some CR notes of your past questions, it should make absolutely no sense. Even only then it can be said that your CR note and CR timing was fine. Because if you're spending too much time on making your notes clean, your notes understandable, that's not the objective of a GMAT CR question. You need to quickly understand and visualize in your head. Give some time to the question stem as well. That's very important. What we do is, Dhananjay, I'm again coming back from a student perspective. We will just see the word assumption and then we'll go ahead to the answer choices.
A lot of
Right?
people do that. A lot of people do that. I absolutely agree with you. And the thing is that in doing that, you kind of forget that there's a problem stem there, and you need to figure out things about it. Let's make very clear to people here as well that making notes is not very bad. You did it, but the reason you could graduate from making notes to visualizing was because you started the process of visualization and pre-thinking. And I
Yeah.
think that was what took you to the kind of next level and saved you that 30 to 45 seconds. And
Although
when I stopped writing, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
although DJ, just a small note of caution to everyone. When you actually when you stop making notes and start visualizing, please don't give up in the first few days. You will take time to actually get good in visualizing. DJ, I'm being very honest. I thought that your
I know your
strategies.
performance dipped. I remember. I
Yeah.
remember. I remember the
When
performance dip.
you suggested that I should not make notes, I was like, is this guy serious? Is he going to totally bunk my GMAT strategy this time? But I just had this, faith and trust on a mentor rather than me. And that's why I kept going on. I did not give up even after the first 3 or 4 days when I was having that difficulty. So please don't give up. Whoever is starting to visualize instead of note making, don't give up.
Perfect. I think that kind of sums up CR for us. And like we said, we wanted to kind of deliver you a SCNCR meaning-based approach. So to give you a glimpse that we can save you time and we can save you the effort and give you a lot of good accuracy as well. So let's talk about process skills on Quant, right? So something like infer, translate, simplify. These are the skills that you learned through the new course, right? So essentially, I kind of want you to talk about the new Quant course and geometry per se, right? So I remember that you kind of went through geometry. How did you use the course and what kind of value is it? So let's go back into conversation with you and just kind of discuss the new Quant course for about 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay, so to everyone and to DJ, I've been very honest about eGMAT's previous Quant course. I've not held back at any point of time. Their first the GMAT course which they had before, it wasn't. I thought it wasn't helping me out from a Q49 to a Q50. What was the reason? I thought that the kind of quizzes which they have at the end were just, it was too much information before I could actually apply that information. One good thing which they did was what eGMAT has now done in their 2.0 courses. They have inserted these process skills, GMAT skills, and application skills. If I remember correctly, they have process and GMAT skills. And DJ specifically asked me to focus on these skill lessons, right? And the beauty about
And then
these,
that's based on a diagnostic quiz essentially. So you take a diagnostic. It's that kind of it's like the GMAT. So it tells you basis your diagnostic scores what kind of files you need to do. So it's like an AI kind of course that really is intelligent enough to say that you're here and we think you're here and this is what you should do. And so the problem that we were facing earlier, and being again very honest, was that some people told us that the Quant course is really hard. And a lot of people still say that, the difference between their quant scores and their GMAT scores of 1 or 2 points. And we kind of realize that and we think about it, internalized it. Rajat, Pyle, and the team kind of got together and said, let's fix it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And they said, let's fix it, right? And they said, let's build a system that a person who's at a Q41 can get to Q50 with the same system. And a person who's at Q49 can also use the course and develop those process skills and GMAT skills required to solve the medium hard level questions on GMAT. And I think that's exactly
Correct.
what worked for you on geometry, right? So was there anything
Yeah.
particular that kind of stood out?
Yeah, my geometry was, in fact, I thought my geometry was good, but when I started doing questions, I found out that I had certain process gaps, certain conceptual gaps in geometry. So when I studied the theory part in the GMAT Geometry 2.0 course, the questions which I was getting were very to the point. Like I was getting questions where I was actually weak, where I felt weak. So somehow, step by step, I just kept on doing the entire geometry course, and I could see a visible improvement. I could see that okay, their earlier course, it only had hard questions. I exactly knew the reason why eGMAT did had that earlier course, because you are training the students for a tougher situation and all of that. That was fine, but somehow it felt too difficult. So the new course is almost exactly it's going to be right according to your own abilities and skills, right? So wherever you are in the GMAT preparation calendar, you will see questions, you will see theory which is actually relevant for you. So that actually worked out for me.
That's perfect. And let's just go back to the PPT again to kind of discuss the kind of the kind of delivery of strategy that we give to the students free of cost, right? And we kind of do these sessions so that you guys kind of conquer these demons and figure out where you need to learn. So Rajat again is doing a session on 20th. Would love you guys to kind of attend this, and his sessions are truly brilliant. I attend a lot of them. I still learn from them, and I'm sure that you will learn. A lot of students kind of love them, and I would like you to kind of go through them. So, Anand, let's talk about the three-stage approach. And then I know that this is something that so many people don't know about eGMAT, and they crib about it as well, that it doesn't work for me. And let's I just want to give you and everybody here the ideology behind it. It's basically what how you should learn. Stage one is that you lay the foundation for everything, and we don't want you to mix up stage one with anything. And just by the way, guys, Anand followed everything in stage wise learning to the T. Probably one of the most diligent students I worked with, and this is why he's sitting here with a 750. I assure you, this thing here it works, right? So you kind of lay the foundation, do that well. If you do that well, you're doing pretty much most of the work. You're getting that out of the way. And then you said, now that I've learned so much, let me figure out how to kind of apply that. And there's a bridge here, there's a gap here, there's a big gap here that you need to jump. And if you kind of make a student jump from stage one to stage three, which is giving these mixed custom quizzes or these timed quizzes or a mock, a lot of students take mocks after studying, right? They tend to fail because they miss this little thing in between. So the three-stage learning is basically based on the best and most ideal way to learn. Right? So you build your foundation, cement it, and then you test your ability. It's just that simple. So in three stages of learning, right? What worked for you, Anant? Essentially, I mean, this is something that I kind of wanted to discuss. Let's go back into conversation with you to discuss what worked for you in the three stages.
Okay, so one very important thing again from a student's perspective is at first I couldn't understand what this mumbo jumbo is. What is the three-stage approach? Is this just a marketing gimmick, or I just thought these are just too many words for me to understand at this point of time, right? But luckily, I just kept on following whatever you were saying. I remember that in my first email, I asked you, when can I give my next mock? And you were like, don't even think about a mock. First, finish the entire stage-wise process, and then only we can think about giving a mock, right? Now,
And people hate me for saying this, by the way. There's a lot of stuff like, why I've paid for the marks, I should be giving them right now. My GMAT is around the corner. So it's absolutely antithetical to how a
Yeah.
student thinks right now.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the kind of change that we wanted to bring about, and you're right about it. So carry on, please. Sorry.
Yeah. So the what I found, like, the best thing about the, and I don't want to, make it sound so much, uh, I don't know, like, I don't want to sound like a fan of eGMAT here, because I just want to
Disclaimer,
explain.
we're still not paying you. Still not paying Anand,
Yeah.
guys. Just saying so.
No, I just want people to understand what the three-stage approach is, even though you've, just, I'll just summarize it a bit. Basically, all of us are not on the same footing, right? You might be better in CR. I might be very bad at CR. You might be very bad at CR, and I might be, sorry, at SC, and I might be very good at SC. We don't need to start from the same point. And that is essentially the biggest mistake of many other GMAT prep companies. And I know a Delhi-based GMAT company. A friend of mine was recently studying from there, and the entire lot of 15 students, they were made to do everything on the same footing. Everybody was progressing as a team, but it's not a team effort. GMAT is a very individual and a personal, it involves a personal strategy, right? So what you need to do is, you need to understand where you need to start. You don't need to spend, you don't need to waste time where you actually know things, where you actually know concepts, right? And that's essentially what DJ also told me in the beginning itself, that I don't need to do these and these things in quant and this thing in verbal, right? So essentially, I skipped the first stage because I had a strong hold, right? And wherever I was falling weak, for example, I specifically remember RC was something which I thought I was good at, but according to my ESR, I was in the 57th percentile. 51 percentile, sorry, 51 percentile, right? So obviously I had some issues with RC, right? So I need to start from the very beginning. I cannot just keep on giving mocks, keep on giving practice questions, right? So that is where the three-stage approach helps you. It lays down the foundation. It basically tells you these are the concepts. In stage 2, it will ask you to practice a bit without so much time pressure. They wouldn't put you in a lot of time pressure in stage 2. Stage 3 is essentially where, when you are somehow confident, then you can move on to a high pressure time situation, facing medium and difficult level questions. So that's what I understood of the three-stage approach, and what actually helped me out, because I could instantly begin with the topics. One more thing, because I was very weak in CR and SC, the three-stage approach helped me to give more time to them, because I started with them earlier than quant. Basically, the entire quant
So you
section I did.
save time essentially. Like all in all, you actually save time through the three
Correct,
stage
correct,
approach.
correct. Exactly. It will save you time, because it will not allow you to waste time in the things which you already know of. Why do you need to and re-understand what x plus y whole square is and everything? You don't need to do that if you want. And Dhananjay, I'll tell you why people do that. Because we want to be comfortable. We want to stay in the comfort area. We want to see ourselves do good in the things we are strong at, right? So that's
It's
why we.
validation, right?
Correct,
Essentially,
correct,
just
correct, right,
validation.
correct. And throughout your
Yeah,
GMAT
so
journey, you
I
to.
absolutely agree with you. Absolutely
Mm,
agree with you.
yeah.
100%. And I think you understanding it now, at that point, you may not have understood it as well, but you
Mm,
listened. You kind of trusted me with that, right?
yeah.
And it works, which is why I trust it. And, which is why Rachan Pal kind of came up with it. So let's just go back to the slides, and I want to show something to you guys here. This was my last email to you. This was just before your test. Now, if you look at the level of detail here, guys, just went into the fact that these are the kind of questions you need to do. This is the source. This is how you're going to get it done. This is the target. The hyper specific plan kind of, this is where the study plan, this is where the sprint comes in the end of the marathon. This is that, where I just kind of give you that final push that you're already there. I just want to make sure I get you across the line. And I think that kind of really, really helped. And again, the geometry course helped. But I think I'm always for this. Motivation and empathy really goes miles and miles when it comes to students. And it's the little things in life. It's always the little things that kind of work. And then obviously the rest is history. You scored a 750 Q49 V44, a really wonderful journey, and you guys should definitely see this story. And essentially, again, Rajat, me, the entire team here want to kind of take you through the same journey. So join the strategy session here on the 20th, and then Shweta takes really nice sessions as well. She's extremely well versed with geometry, and we're kind of introducing the new geometry course now that Anand did. So we kind of want to take you through how to really do well in geometry. It's probably one of the most difficult topics on the test, right? And finally, if you have any questions about the GMAT, how to study for it, anything, just book a call with us. Just reach out to a mentor. We will listen to you. We will help you get there. And uh, essentially, we would want to make another Anant every single day. That's our goal. That's the benchmark now. Anant is the benchmark for you guys and us, right? So now I'll go back into conversation with Anant essentially, and we'll field your questions now. In fact, Anant will field your questions. He's the guest of honor here, and he'll better answer it than me, and you would want to hear from him only. So we'll take it question by question, share whatever you have on your mind with us, and we'll be happy to kind of answer that. Till then, Anant, till we kind of see those questions coming in, what is the next step for you? What are you doing right now? Are you working on your applications?
So I was completely off work for about 2 to 3 months during my GMAT preparation, and
Hmm.
right now I'm just getting back to work. I have my own business to handle, so I'm just handling that. And
Hmm.
probably this year by September end, in the round one applications, I'll apply to about 5, 6 colleges in the US. And if things go
Hmm.
well, I'll probably take the MBA course next year. I think we
Perfect.
had a
Perfect. So
question.
Ashmi is asking where do you take your mock tests from? So Ashmi, I'm not sure what you're meaning, but I think she basically means that where did you take your mock test from, essentially?
Okay. All right. So I took all the GMAT official, all the 6 GMAT official tests. I purchased the GMAT 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 packs. I also purchased the experts global mocks, but I did not give all of them. I only gave about 7 to 8. There was a slight issue with the experts global mocks. I'll tell you what that is. You will start predicting the kind of questions which you will see in the next mock, because they have a very specific pattern of questions. For example, there would be a subjunctive question of this type which will be testing this exact thing in your mocks. Even in RC questions, you will see very similar questions. So apart from experts global, I took the Veritas mocks, the free mocks. I also took about 5, or I think all the 6 Princeton mocks, Princeton review mocks, which I think if you want to boost your confidence to unnatural levels, you can take the Princeton review mocks, because they're quite easy. So in the beginning, if you want to do that, yes, that's absolutely fine. Apart from that, then of course, when I had nothing else, I took the eGMAT mocks. Oh, and some of you would be surprised to know that I did not even take all the 5 eGMAT mocks, because I simply realized that it's not mock taking is not the strategy. You don't need to keep taking mocks. It's not like your final score will definitely be an average of your mocks. So I think I only took about 3 or 4 mocks of eGMAT.
And then how is the Sigma X mock in comparison to all the other mocks? Was there anything different about it?
Sorry. Sigma X mocks. What were you saying? I was
Sigma
looking.
X mocks versus other mocks. So is there anything that is
Yeah.
different
The
about it?
level of analytics, the level of detailing, that is exceptional in eGMAT, Sigma X mocks, because I think what do you call it? You have a subsectional, this thing,
Ability scores, subsectional ability scores.
yeah, so you'll get to know what exactly in verbal, what exactly in SC are you lacking, and that is the main thing. Now you can't just rely on this thing that okay, my verbal is weak. You need to know what in verbal, what in SC, what is it exactly that you are weak in. if it's your timing, if it's your conceptual gaps, that is what you'll get to know from the Sigma X marks.
Got it. So Ankita is asking a question. This is a good question, Ankita. Thank you for asking this. I mean, what's your advice to someone who is not good in quants?
What's your okay? All right. So, in fact, I have a friend who's studying right now for GMAT, and she is not good in quant. For quant, if you want to, and I would, I would make a special mention to a special someone. His name is Bunel. He is a GMAT club mentor. If you simply, if you only have the official guide right now, the way to do it is you practice all the OG questions, but you also look at all the solutions. If even if you got it right, you have to look at the solution from GMAT club and specifically look for Bunel's explanation, because the kind of strategy he will tell you is going to be exceptional. So please make sure that you are spending some time looking at Bunel's explanation. If you do not have OG, if you only have the eGMAT course, then of course you just have to follow their plan to the T. If you do not have eGMAT, if you do not have OG, GMAT club can be a very good source. But there's only one caveat which I want to mention. Make your approach structured. You cannot run in the field where there is no direction, right? So make sure that you cover things topic by topic. You first have to understand what your weakest area is. Is it geometry? Is it let's say probability? Is it combinatorics? What is it that you are weak in? Then focus on that, practice some questions, and then do a timely based question set of that topic.
I think that's absolutely unbiased and the way to kind of go about doing it. So Pallav, we'll get to your question. By the way, I spoke to Pallav today only. I had a call with Pallav and he's asking you how to manage quant during the GMAT. So we'll talk about Ashwar's question first, and we'll get to Pallav's. So Ashwar is planning to give his exam in July. What do you think is the ideal number of mocks that you should target to get done? To kind of get to your target score.
I had the same question. In fact, if you look at my, my Google Chrome history, you'll see this question a lot of times. Ideal number of mocks. I searched Quora, I searched GMAT Club, everywhere. The issue, Aishwarya, is that there is no such ideal number, honestly. I've seen people get a 750 or more than that with just 1 or 2 mocks. And there are people like me who've given more than 20-25 mocks, and I got a 670. So what you should be looking at is not the ideal number of mocks, because as I told you, I'm not sure if you were around, if you were around when I was explaining that it's not going to be like a race where you keep on giving mocks and the last mock, which will be your final mock, will be exactly around the scoring pattern which you had, which was going on recently. It's not going to be like that. So what you need to understand is you first need to get ahead with every concept, right? Once you feel that first take a mock without studying anything, then start studying your weakest areas and work on the timing aspect also. That is very, very important, right? Then maybe in a month or 2, you can give your next mock, and then you need to analyze again, and you need to compare what have you improved and what is going wrong. That is the most important thing, to keep analyzing your error log. By the way, error log is something which we did not actually talk about, but just in one line, if I have to tell you, error log is also one of those things which changed my scoring pattern from A to Z. It changed it drastically. So please make sure that you analyze your errors. Don't skip that part. Even if your questions are correct, see why they are correct. See what the answer says, what the answer explanation says. Does it match your thinking or not? These are the kind of things which you should be focusing on more, instead of the ideal number of mocks. Because honestly, take it from me, an ideal number of mocks is not going to help you. Focusing on your weak points is going to help you out.
Yeah, even error logs, Anant, like the one that we have for SCCR, that's separate, by the way, and the way we kind of make it, the way we kind of tell you to strategically review it, is something that's I think it's a novel approach because if you do it right, there is every chance that you reduce your time, improve your accuracy. So, like again, like I'm gonna tell you guys, go and book your free call. If you want to see what a good error log looks like, reach out to us. We'll be happy to share that with you. Essentially, we're all about helping students, and now I can share the link for the call again, so that we kind of share that error log piece with you. But let's take Shyam's question now. He says that I want to know that did you do any reading practice? And I kind of know that you did. So go ahead and share that
I
experience too.
I subscribed to Economist for their 3 month plan. Everything which you see on the internet, which is free knowledge, I've done all of that. So I'll tell you what I did. I read Economist. I tried the free version of Bloomberg, New York Times. There's one called The American Scientist, if I'm not mistaken, which is
Yeah,
also a
that's
very
correct.
good, yeah, which is also a very good science journal. So I did a lot of reading from that, and I also did a reading of my novels, like my fiction and non-fictions as well. So all you have to think about is you have to read some part, or you have to dedicate your time of the day, some part of the day, to reading. But again, don't go for numbers. Don't be like, okay, if I finish 50 articles in this week, I will score better. Go for quality. Understand every line of every paragraph which you are reading. Then your reading strategy is right. Your reading strategy is incorrect if you are just focusing on, if I finish the economist articles, then I will definitely be better in verbal. That's not the way to go about it. Do quality reading and understand every sentence. Then you can improve your reading.
I'm glad someone asked this question because we were just sitting today in the team, and I did this reading exercise, Anand, with a lot of non-native speakers who were not comfortable with comprehension, right? So we have a very interesting reading exercise we do with students. You were already doing that the right way. We've kind of broken it down the same way with my
Yeah.
experience on master comprehension and stuff like that, to kind of give them the same effect. And very right, quality over quantity always. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Prathama is saying that I'm a working professional. How many hours per day should I start off with? And if I have to give my exam in June, then when, how many hours should? So I'll take this one. It's a very strategic kind of query. Prathama, essentially, if you're planning to give your exam in June, what should you know? You should know what your starting score is. Take a diagnostic. Anand did that, so should you. Now, we know at eGMAT exactly how much time it takes for a student from, let's say, a 550, 600, 650, or even a 700 to score, let's say, a target score. So fix your target score, or we can help you with the number of hours it takes to kind of get there. So, for example, let's say your mock score is 600 and you're aiming for a 750. It usually takes about 300 to 350 hours of learning. That's how you plan your day. And now, if you're a working professional, you can't give more than 2 hours or 3 hours in a day. It's putting too much of strain on your brain. So try to study about 2 3 hours on a weekday and about 5 hours on a weekend, and that's kind of how we go about doing it, right? Let's take up Pallav's question now, since I have to kind of take that up. How do you manage time in Quant to kind of aim for a 700 plus? What's the timing strategy like?
Okay, so for obviously for quant, you have to understand that easy level questions will take you not more than a minute to solve. 600 level questions, even 650 level questions, you would be able to solve them within a minute. And if you are already at on that stage, don't panic too much if you're taking, let's say, 2.5 or maximum 3 minutes. Don't go for 2.5 to 3 minutes is the red zone actually in quant. But if you're taking 2.5 minutes for 700 plus level questions, that is absolutely fine, because these questions are designed in a way to be time consuming. The other thing is, GMAT is so sneaky. It's so it wants to test the students on what level. I don't know what it wants to do, but basically it will try to make sure that you falter where everybody else is faltering, and that might be a simple calculation, or that might be a simple formula, or some area which most people falter in. right? So make sure that, of course, for 700 plus level questions, your concepts, you can't go to the exam room and expect to get a 700 plus with a good quant score without having excellent knowledge of all the concepts. Once you've done that, focus on your timing. How you can focus on your timing is you can use the GMAT club timer if you want to practice it for free. You can use the GMAT club timer. Practice about, let's say, 20-30 questions per topic with fixed time. uh, See if you are finishing the question within 2 or 2.5 minutes maximum. So that is a way in which you can deal with 700 plus level questions.
Perfect. So let's take Komal's question now. And this is probably one of the last questions of the night. Guys, if you want to ask us any more questions, feel free to ask. I'll be more than happy to respond. Anant is right here. It's very difficult to get a hold of Anant. So, oh, so now Palla says I was right. So now that he's heard it from you, he agrees with me. Anyways, all about validation, Anant. See, it's all about validation.
Absolutely.
Anyways, let's get to Komal's question. Hot cognition. How did you
Mm.
kind of tackle that? And a very good question. I think Komal has done her research. She's asking the right
Yeah.
question here. Tell us, how did you figure that out in your last attempt?
Okay, so by the way, this is something which I've I've spoken about to at least 20, 25 students after I've given my GMAT. They've told me they've experienced the exact same thing which happened to me. What was that thing? My mind went blank on certain questions. I couldn't understand the meaning of some texts of RCNCR when I was reading the questions. What is hot cognition? Is something which I found out after I scored a 670. I went home. I was, of course, very disappointed. I searched up the internet. Somewhere it said that when you get too comfortable practicing a tough situation, when the tough situation actually happens, your mind goes into hot cognition, and the part of your brain which is responsible for memory shuts down, right? So essentially you're not able to pull out concepts and your strategies from your memory when you have hot cognition. Now, how to tackle hot cognition is basically what went wrong. I'll tell you that I because I gave about 20 to 25 mocks. I thought I was training myself for the worst, but I was actually it was going counterproductive because I was getting too comfortable in my home environment to give that mock. So when I actually went to the GMAT center, I was sitting where the door was right behind me. The door kept opening and closing, right? And I wasn't used to this. What was I used to? At home, I used to tell everyone, please keep quiet, nobody can disturb me, I need to give this in a very serious environment. And that is in fact what I thought was a proper exam center environment.
But that's
However,
not realistic, right? That's the problem.
exactly, because the day when you are giving your GMAT, your anxiety levels will be very high. You are going to be nervous. All of these are normal. These are also going to help you out in some of the questions. Some people think that stress is entirely bad, but of course some level of stress on your mind will actually help you move the engine to understand the meaning. Of course, too much stress is again going to be bad, but how to avoid hot cognition: when you are practicing your mocks, when you are practicing your practice questions, don't make it at your home. Don't make an environment where nobody can disturb you. Or I used to put on headphones, like noise cancelling headphones, during mocks. Although that is the case when you are giving the GMAT, don't practice it like that. Practice in the worst condition so that you can train yourself for the worst of the worst situations, right? One very good example which I read was, this is what the army does also. The army prepares for hot cognition before war happens, in a war-like situation where they're put to the worst of the worst situation tests, right? So you can't be comfortable at any point of time. In fact, I had a note.
They
I had a
called they called war games. So my dad's
Hmm.
from the army. They're called
Hmm.
war games, and it's literally a battle environment. You have to be underground, and that's pretty much what test readiness is, right? At the end of the day, we
Yeah.
kind of want to prepare you for, when when the situation is the worst. If you can perform the worst, if you can perform the best in the worst situation, you are through to the eGMAT, like through
Yeah.
GMAT. So I think you're absolutely right. Prepare like the army does towards the end, sprint towards the end. But I think this has been really, really helpful, Arun, and we should get you on board as an eGMAT mentor. I really, really, it's always fun talking to you. I maintain that, and I really appreciate you coming on board the session today. Guys, thank you so much for attending the session. If you have any questions for me and Anant, you can just reach out to support at the rate e-gmat.com. Now I will share the email ID right here, and I'll kind of then connect you to Anant or myself, obviously, to kind of field those questions. And go ahead, yeah, just book a call with us, figure out where your GMAT prep is at, and we'll get you there. Right? Thank you again. I know it's getting a little late for Indian people, but thank you so much for everybody, to everybody to kind of attend the session. And yeah, all the best and happy learning.
Thank you so much, DJ. Just one small thing to everyone. There is absolutely no way you're acing the GMAT without hard work. Don't lie to yourself. Don't cheat yourself. Don't cheat your mentor. Just do some hard work and be truthful yourself. You will get there. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you so much, and best of luck to everyone who joined today.
And you'll be the next Anand. I mean, just a matter of 75 days, 750, 75 days. Perfect. Anand, thank you so much. And I'll talk to you soon. Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much.
much.
Thanks a lot.